Bom dia, boa tarde, bom simang, bendición babo, iboso. Welcome to our third lecture already. It's not, yeah, third or fourth. It's not really a lecture, but in this presentation, I'm gonna explain our group subject. We have civic engagement project, and this is 50% of our grade. And this year I decided not to do small groups of four, but to do one subject with the whole class and then divide that in smaller pieces. What I do next at the university, I teach at the university, but behind that or next to that, I plant food forests in neighborhoods and in people's gardens. Hoffi Nandi Barrio. We have planted Hoffi di Brivegat, Hoffi di Scarlo, and that's very exciting, exciting development last couple of years. It started with G&M, a nice course, and we got introduced to two Brazilian guys who planted syntropic agroforestry. And that method is one of the strongest methods of planting in Curacao. So this is the end result actually. This is not particularly syntropic, but this is behind the old Manguça. The Portuguese who live there, they have a very beautiful coffee there, and it's beautiful. It's mature, it's interplanted, it's diverse, and it's very strong against our climate. So I always like to take this picture as an example of what this food forest can mean, right? So planting a food forest at a primary school. I had in mind Rigobertus College in Santa Rosa. Maybe it's going to be another school, but a big chance we're going to do it there. And the method is syntropic agroforestry. And yes, we're going to do it with the whole class. So nowadays, in this era, day and age, we are in very turbulent waters. We have different changes going on, climate changes, also globalization changes, rich and poor changes, but especially climate changes. And this is mainly due to chopping down forests, basically, and exploiting natural resources. Um, this is not different in Curacao. We had thick forests in the past before colonialization, before the Dutch and the Spaniards, and then we chopped everything down for redwood and for brasia, and then we came with colonialization, with and then at last with goats who chopped everything off again. So the need is very high to replant Curacao again, the world again, especially the primary schools. Here's the picture, a picture of a school, and basically all the basic schools and secondary schools look like that. It's paved 100% with asphalt, which is very heat absorbent, and one or two trees suffocating. And can you imagine all the children living there, or not living there, schooling there? What the effect is on them of an increased temperature. So in the left here we see two pictures of temperatures taken in a city without trees and one with trees, and you see that temperatures drastically decrease if there is shade and trees around. So that's one part shading, and for the second part is evaporation. So the heat is used for evaporation of water and then being expunged in that way. So we have climate change, we have quentura de ciudad nang. Now with the COVID crisis, last couple of 3 years, we saw problems with self-sufficiency, autosuficiencia, and of course, with some forests, we bring oxygen again at the place where it's needed the most. The place where people learn. And actually, the optimal efficiency of humans to work, to be efficient, in your body and in your mind is 26 degrees. So if we can bring that down, so you can imagine that in an plain CD scroll a cena é tamane e può bir a 40 grado. And if we know how to bring that down to 26, that's an improvement on all levels. So what I do with Samyama, with my company, small company, and my small team around me is we plant food forests. The first one was in Scarlo. Here in this is Patras de los Muchachos, dus buurthuis Fleur de Marie. And it's a very small one, it's 200 square meters, and we got a fund from some sponsors. And this was with Cura Dut, and we cleaned it with Suak's baseball team. 200 square meters, not very big, and it was actually a house that was burned down. And then just make rows on north-south, planting it with a diverse set of trees, especially fruit trees like shimaruku, macaprum, sorsaka, and in between there also seeds of herbs and vegetables. They will cover the first phase, protect against the sun, etc., the first 3 months, and when they die off, then we have other plants that take over. So this is a particular syntropic way of planting. It's planting in stacks, in levels, and in time and space optimization. Very interesting. So this is 14th of May, 1 month later, and then 3 months later here, and then the last picture here. This is 6 months later. So it goes very rapidly, very fast. The second Hoffi was in Brievengat, Hoffi di Barrio Brievengat, in between Vefek and Abvo. And we did that, zowel Scharlo als Brievengat, we did both in the COVID period. So this one is 2021. And instead of being locked down at home, I invited everyone, let's go on the streets, let's go build a Hoffi. And I paid some vrijwilligersvergoeding of 25 guilders per day per person, and the children got 5 guilders or 10 guilders. So we did this for 1 year and with the whole group like that. And then even Princess Beatrix came 2 years ago. So that was really exciting to have all this attention on these food forests. Yeah. So, even tussendoor, why we're doing this with a class, it's not so much about the planting. There's a lot of positive sides on planting. We will get to that later also. But um, not everyone likes planting, of course, in our class, but it's more of an free style of education where we pick one subject and then around that subject we develop different subjects that are really educational. So in later slides, maybe in 4 or 5 slides, I will explain the different group topics, and then you see we have social media. We have to look for sponsors. We gonna make a small documentary on it. We do some literature and translation. We do some education with the children, and we do some planting, right? So these are 6 very different socio-economical subjects that we actually learn in this faculty, socio-economic faculty, around a positive, concrete subject. So that is the strong part of doing such an engagement project, zo'n class groepsopdracht. All right, back to this slide. For these food forests that we planted, we got, of course, some sponsors. Some big sponsors were Stichting Doen, Samenwerkende Fondsen, Cura Doet, offered 10,000 euro, 1,000 guilders. Samenwerkende Fondsen offered 11,000 guilders for Scharlo. Stichting Doen offered actually 70,000 guilders. So these are really big projects, and they're really enthusiastic about food forests in neighborhoods because it combines food production um, citizens engagement, sustainability, reforestation, and cooling of the island, which are all very, very, very positive. Um, and last but not least, Suwak's baseball team, they came to help us at Kuradut clean up. They really enthusiastic group of girls of 16, 17 and did most of the work there in Scharlo of Scharlo. Right? So I mentioned earlier that a lot of other people are doing this specific planting style of planting. It's called syntropic agroforestry, and it's a method that plants with nature. So we really look at nature a lot to reach a high diversity. That's one, and two is very dense planting. So density and diversity. Densidad y diversidad. That's the one of the main keys of success in nature. So and in Bandebouw, and we have like 20 to 50 food for I think already 50 food forests in this style, this particular style here in Curacao, at people's homes and all around. And Daniel, for example, this is Bandebouw. This is Daniel. The one in the left here is Daniel Paris in Lelienberg, and this is the location where the first ever Syntropic course was held by GMN and Roland Verreijnen and his team. And they invited two Brazilian guys from from Brazil, and they were taught by Ernst Gotsch, and Ernst Gotsch is the founder of this method. He's a Swiss guy, and he moved to Brazil, and he reforested like 500 or 5,000 hectares, very big piece of degraded land because it was for decennia used as cattle and mice. Very degraded, very bad soil, and he just pumped it up back to an full-grown forest, and 5 hectares and got used for cacao production. And he got the prize last year of the best cacao in whole Brazil. So that's an amazing because it's a cacao producing country. So this is the most mature forest here, and this is Clarvin also in Barber, who planted the biggest, the one actually next to mine in Brievengat. It's 5,000 square meters. This one is also 5,000 square meters, but this one is individual at his own garden, and the one in Brievengat is public, but they're both the same sizes. These are really good friends of mine, and we're working towards the promotion and spreading of this method also here. So a lot of activity going on in this field. There's also another group foundation jumping into this sector, and this is Colectivo. Colectivo is a group that looks for funds outside Curacao and brings them down in Curacao and divide that into smaller pieces of 2,000, 3,000, or 5,000 guilders for small social projects. And they subsidize, for example, also the Hoffie in by Clarven Seintje in Bandebouw, but they have also one in Skerpenay, Farm Boyer, a syntropic farm there at Farm Boyer, and they have a Bitcoin. It's called Curadao. So you can change or buy Curadaos, and you can actually pay around here in Curacao with Curadao. There's, for example, Esperamos accepting Curadao, and their projects. If they subsidize a social project, they need workers to pay, they also pay the workers in Curadao. So this is worthwhile reading, and another group, one of your groups, the sponsoring and social media group, can write a grant also, can write a proposal for a grant also to get some money to pay to to pay the materials in this project. Another big movement right now is the Hidden Green movement, and it's an awareness program by Berber van Beek and her friend, and they are putting farmers in the spotlight that are doing good work here in Curacao, producing food, animals, meat, salads, conventional agriculture, how we know it, with a canal and a lot of papaya and bacoba, etc. And she's putting these farmers in the spotlight weekly and monthly, and eventually connecting restaurants with farmers. So restaurants are putting now, the restaurants that you spoke with are putting now one local one local dish on the menu, which is exclusively harvested from Curaçao farmers, right? So this is also very, and you see them also in Van der Tweel. They have a television. They're promoting the Hidden Green movement. Um, Very positive and very good to research to maybe spread the news of our food forest also, and maybe later on integrate this in presentations that we're gonna give each other also. So back to the process, how we're gonna tackle this. This is a snapshot again from Skylo. It's just a lot of cleaning, and then Cobano Canal putting all the trees in. This is a very good guide for you to read how to create a citropic garden, a beginner's guide. Please read that, and then you'll understand a bit how the process. We're going to plant especially Curaçaoan species of fruit trees and herbs and vegetables. This is a list that I made with all our fruit trees, well, a set group of our species, with some characteristics, the use of fruits and the pods and the nuts and the mulch, and if it's irrigated, yes or no, and under which circumstances how much water it needs minimally to grow, what the cosecha are, etc. So if we professionalize our flora means everything that is green here in Curacao. If we professionalize this, we can use this in our food basket, de nos makutu básico. We did this in our history already. Imagine how much we ate from nature in our past here in Curacao. And if we do, and there's one very big advantage of eating this, it's not cultivated. So everything you see, for example, tomatoes and cucumbers in supermarkets, they're very big and very watery, but the taste and the smell is gone. And the taste and smell, they are indicators of the nutritional level of a vegetable. So if something is not smelly anymore or tasty, that means there's no nutrition in it anymore. And this is happening worldwide because big agglomerations are producing our food, but pumping so much water and fertilizers in it that the plant explodes, get a big fruit, but there's no more nutrition in it. So we're actually eating, and while we're eating ourselves full, we're still starving ourselves because we don't get nutrition in our body, and our body still needs that nutrition. So it keeps on screaming, give me food, and we keep on eating, eating, eating. And the advantage of these kind of local crops is that they super rich in nutrients, because they're not cultivated, they're just growing. You know, they're not watered, they're not irrigated, fertilized, etc. So that is one very big advantage of planting this, and what better place to do it than at a school. Products, of course, are the stuffs that we know from here. This Calbas Largo, these are some snapshots from Office Carlo. Melon, herbs. I love herbs, to plant a lot of herbs, salads in them. This is what you can expect in these forests. This is Tatiana Felix, who lived up there, and makes these drums. This tambour, drums, and djembes. Very skilled worker. And yeah, she was helping in the forest also. So these are some spin-offs of the forest in Scharlo. We have a lot of children's groups in it. There were some BSO's, some buitenschoolse opvang with Kim. Kim, she was the manager of that, is the manager of these groups, and we just planted a lot. We made a batata douche challenge where all people were invited to pick up some ramas di batata and just plant them at home. And we planted them in klikos. We did some business encounters here and a video group from the University of Curacao who made a small video about it. So there's a lot of spin-off of these kind of social projects, and we can aim for that also in our project at the Rigobertus College. All right, so how to set up a syntropic food forest? You need to do a little bit of background research. So the must read, first of all, is the first one is the Civic Engagement Project Manual. I wrote a manual on how we're gonna do this, what are the groups, what are the tasks for each group, and it's on Blackboard. So please read that. Then there is a good site with a nice layout how to set up a syntropic food forest. This presentation is going on Blackboard, so you can click on the link. And then there's a document, Permacultuur ontwerpen met de natuur. It's a PDF also on Blackboard, and that's actually my beginning. I started with this document and got really enthusiastic. It's in Dutch, and it's really explanatory, really insightful. And the fourth one is also a big one. These two documents are 50 pages. This one reads fast because it's easier. This one is a little bit more technical, but it's far better than everything else. It's about abundance agroforestry, a syntropic handbook, also PDF and on Blackboard. To get some inspiration on YouTube, this one is a really good one, Live in Syntropy. It's about Ernst Gotch, the founder of syntropic agriculture in Brazil. And then I added 3 videos of my colleague, Roland van Reenen. He's also a very big promoter here in Curacao of syntropic agroforestry, and his movement is called Bam Planta Awa, the first syntropic agroforestry farm in Curacao, one in Seri Otrobanda, and another one at Aruba, where they planted the first forest there. Very interesting, very nice. So please watch these, and please read at these 4 also. These first 2 very good, and then the third and the fourth as good as possible if you have time. There's also another group, subgroup, which I'm gonna talk later on, who actually are gonna translate these 3 and 4. So if you like language translation, then you can set yourself in this team of translation. So we're gonna translate these number 3 and 4 into Papiamento, so our people here in Curacao can understand easily and more faster these subjects. All right, so if I decided to break up the whole class project in 6 groups, and so we are with around 24 or 25 people in class, and you can choose in which group you want to work on. So the first one, we have the groups materials, the team time banking, team education, doing the stuff with the kids and the information overbringing, team sponsoring and social media, team translation and information, and the team short documentary. We have team materials, who are really, so this is 24 people divided with 6 group is 4 persons per group. 4 persons per group. And this team materials, is looking for all the materials. In the document Civic Engagement Projects, there are all the materials listed and that you need to get, but they are subdivided into mulch. Mulch is organic matter. This is really important for, we put it on the ground as protection against the sun, but also as a compost and as a thick layer where the microorganisms can really feast on and help the plants grow faster. But also manure, mest. We need 2 trucks of them. This is freely available at LVV, at Klein Kwartier. Ash, where you can get at pizzerias where they're baking, and a drip system. We need to go to the Yonka Garden Center. Next to that, we need 40 fruit trees, 40 functional trees, 550 herbs, but also functional species like tuna, aloe, pita, but these are just bopo stack nang. Dus e tuna nang, dis bota corta e blaadje nang, tak 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 tak, anto e aloe tambe, anto e pita nang tambe, e pita nang chiquito. So these are all how do you say that? Stack. Ik ben het woord even vergeten in het Engels. Maar deze zijn best wel. Het klinkt veel, maar ze zijn makkelijk om te zoeken. En 180 vegetables. These materials, they need, of course, money. So that's what the sponsoring team is doing. So this is team time banking first. First, before we go to the sponsoring team, I like to talk about team time banking. So please decide which team you like most and look for teammates, and then go into a group and then mail me what group you would like to sit in and with which people. This is the second team, team time banking. Time banking is a system where you use time instead of money. So time is the trading currency here. One time credit is 1 TC, and that is 1 hour of professional work, of your experience, or let's say 25 florin. It's not the main focus to put an monetary value to put money on it, but it's indicator of how much it is and maybe people. So this team will look for plants, for example, fruit trees and other kinds of trees, and go to these gardeners, people who produce at home, and then offer yourself your time, maybe to help in the garden there, to get some trees in return, or do some other work for these people, and then gather the materials like that. Please, you can link that also on the on a roadmap 2025 vision. I have developed a roadmap 2025, where in 25 I want to implement 25 of these kinds of food forests in schools, in neighborhoods, etc., and also at people's home. So you can imagine that you find a gardener or someone who's planting a lot of trees have other materials, that you say, okay, we're gonna pay you in time credits for the trees that you donate, and with these time credits that you earn, you can buy the next garden in your garden, the next food forest. We're gonna implement the next food forest in your garden. So that is what team time banking can do. There is a lot of research you can do also in YouTube. There's a lot on YouTube on time banking, how it works and how to set it up. And this group can research that and do this then. All right, so this is team education. It's a very solid one, very foundational one, of course, because we're planting a food forest at the school, and then we need to pass over this information to these kids in the form of presentations to different classes, etc. So we've just watched the documentary Inhabit. That was a permaculture um, kind of documentary, and I'm gonna give a presentation also on permaculture and on food forest. So the specific information that I'm gonna give a lot of information, and these kinds of informations you can also put in the presentations to the kids, but it shouldn't be that difficult for them, you know? They're primary, so it's there between, I don't know, 6 and 12. So it should be simple, but still include some permaculture principles on abundance, on functions and elements, on the layout, how such a food forest is planted, the plants in it, and the management or the work, how you maintain it. This all comes in. And I would like also for you to do some children's games. For example, let's do 3 games, for example. Um, Here we have the Web of Life game. You can research that. It's a very interesting one about nature and all elements in it and the importance of every element in it. But also the Osani circle game. This is this picture where children sit together, and one by one, everyone needs to mention or give an example of something circular in your life. Bijvoorbeeld your family as a circle, or the world as a circle, or the light bulb as a circle. And every time a child doesn't know anything else, um, you get out of the circle, and the circle gets smaller and smaller until the end, the one that stayed last, is gonna have a very long life. So this is a game played in certain parts of West Africa. Very interesting, fun game. So this is team education, right? Okay, then we have the team sponsoring and social media. Um, because all these materials that go into the forest, the plants and the trees and the drip system and the timer for the drip system, and the mist and the mulch and the ash, they need a little bit money. So I think around 3 to 5,000 guilders would be enough. So team sponsoring on social media can start with an application or an aanvraag at, for example, Collectivo or samenwerkende fondsen or Nederlandse vertegenwoordiging. Nederlandse vertegenwoordiging also gives 5,000 guilders. Samenwerkende fondsen gives a lot more, but they start also small. Collectivo gives 2,500, and they just opened um, their applications for a grant. So you can write a 2-pager explaining this project and asking for this money. This is team sponsoring. And next to that, you can also produce some social media content. I would suggest 3 clips, small clips with the telephone of 1 minute, da da da, yes, we're doing this, da da da, at this school. It's perfect, positive, and good for everyone. Win, win, win. The yadida, help us or donate or be happy, whatever message you want to convey, you want to pass on. And 5 Facebook and Instagram posts on the whole project, and some background information about the function a function of food forests, cooling effects, climate change, all these kinds of topics into these posts. All right, team translation and information. We have this team focuses on dissemination or the spreading of the information. I would like for you to translate 2 PDFs. This is the permacultuur ontwerpen met de natuur. It's in Dutch, 50-page. And the other one is English. It's a syntropic one. Abundance Agroforestry, the one that we needed to read also a few slides back. You can do either this next to this. Now let's put it that way. Next to this, let's choose 2 out of 3. So the third one is to dub a documentary live in Syntropy. Dub means nasynchroniseren. So we just lower the spoken language to a level that's actually quite not hearable anymore, not audible, but still you hear that they're talking, and then we're gonna voice over in Papiamento what they are saying. So we need to transcribe what is being said. So skibi loke nantabi sa dengan dokumentario aki, and then translate that to Papiamento, and to then speak that into the that video, that live in Syntropy, because it's such a good video and in English. But not everyone speaks English yet here in Curacao. So you have the children, you have the foreigners like Haitians, Dominicans, we have the elderly people, and we have, of course, people that are not that far in education as we are. And if you have such a good documentary in Papimento, then you boost that more in this sector, in these kinds of groups. Right? So let's do 2 out of 3. Let's say you translate 2 documents, or you translate 1 document and you do the dubbing also, 2 out of 3. And then last but not least, depending on the workload, we have to digital. I want you to digitize all the hard copy sources in the UOC library about agriculture on Curacao and put them online, a maximum of 20 documents. So there's a lot of research being done over the last 30 years here in Curacao, especially at the university. Students like you doing projects, and then putting that online, putting that in the library, but it's actually in the library. So you can visit the library and then read these books, but I'm gonna ask if we can copy them and make PDFs of them and then put them online so people at home can research all these kind of things on agriculture. So you see that I like agriculture, and I really like to push agriculture in Curacao because everyone in the world actually needs good nutrition and secure access to food. You know, if something like COVID or problems with Venezuela again happen and all the imports stop, it cannot be that we cannot get good food. We have to get good food, otherwise we'll just end up sick in the hospitals, and that's actually what's happening right now. Okay. Okay, last but not least, we have the team short documentary, which will make a documentary of this whole project. So if people are good with editing, with graba un par de video, buta na junto, then you can get into this team. And we'll put it should contain the school project, a little educational part. So you have to work with team education on what is being passed on to the children to put in this documentary. Some stakeholders, if you get, for example, some funds from Collectivo or money from other people, donations, you put this in the documentary. And maybe about the time banking, if people want to trade or exchange fruit trees or other products or other materials, then they should get attention also in this documentary. And at last, some interesting information on permaculture and syntropic agroforestry, of course. So that is it. This is it. Talk with each other, read what I've proposed to read in a few slides back. Watch some videos on YouTube and decide what you want to work on. Put your team together and mail me before the end of this week what kind of team you want to work on, and then tomorrow we will continue with this work. Bom? Well, actually not at the end of the week. Maybe end of this day. For tomorrow, you can decide which team you want to get on. Bom bom. Ciao. Feliz dia. Anto nos te miro otro mañana.